Narcissistic parents will raise you with so many different manipulation tactics that you might quite unwittingly adopt some of them. They don't have relationship skills, so that won't be taught to you. So you may end up having all kinds of things and problems in relationships. And I'm talking about all kinds of relationships. They can be work relationships, they can be romantic relationships, they can be friendships where you aren't applying skills because you don't have them. And so in this video, I'm going to be talking about 5 relationship killers that narcissistic parents raise their children with that you might potentially have picked up. And then we're going to talk about what you can do about that. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth. I am a transpersonal psychologist, a holistic nutritional chef, and the best-selling author of Get Well Now, Healing Yourself with Food and the Power of the Mind. And I help wounded icons, that's adult children of narcissists, become healed icons. And what's an icon? An icon is somebody who's independent, confident, original, and naturally you. Because if you've been raised by a narcissistic parent, you're an icon. That means you've been conned, and I help you with reversing that programming, and that's part of what this video is going to help you with. So like I said, there are 5 relationship killers that I'm going to be talking about in this video that can really thwart your progress in relationships that you may have adopted. You may not. If it doesn't resonate with you, that's fine. But if it does resonate with you, there are things that you can do. We'll be talking about that in the video. So the first thing that you may have adopted in your relationships as you've gotten older, as you've matured in your life, is you may have adopted the act of assuming that you know what's going on with this other person. So narcissistic parents assume things all the time. They don't just assume, though. They make up entire stories around their assumptions. They've assumed things about you over and over and over again. They've assumed things about your neighbors, about your family, friends, and then they've spun these big stories from these assumptions. And so you may have adopted some of this assuming things about others without really checking it out with them. And so that's the clue right there, is you can start checking these things out with your friends. And it's really hard to do that first time because you're so used to being silent and not saying anything. But you may say to your friend or to your mate, like, hey, when you said this, did you mean that? Because that was hurtful, and I don't think you meant that, but I don't want to assume things about you. I don't want to assume your motive for doing this or doing that. So assuming things is a really, really important thing that could kill your relationships. It could kill your friendships, because you might be sitting there ruminating over the story that you're telling yourself about your friend or about your partner that isn't actually true. So until you check it out with them, you may be sitting in that rumination that you've been trained to do. So this is something that has become a part of your perception based on how you were raised and how you were programmed by your narcissistic parent. So really just think about that for a moment, and think about what areas in your life or moments in your life where you kind of assumed something about somebody, and you might have assumed the absolute worst and it ended up not being true. And start learning some languaging that you can use to help you really talk to your friends, to talk to your mate, saying, hey, did you mean it this way? I just want to make sure, I just want to check it out and make sure I know what you really meant. So clarification is really what you'll be looking for if you know you have this problem of assuming things about other people that are upsetting you, that maybe aren't even what the true story is. The second thing that could be a real relationship killer if you were raised by a narcissistic parent is you have 0 skills to be able to work through things in relationships, because a true narcissistic parent is never going to work through things with you. They're never going to apologize to you for all the awful things that they do to you and say about you. And they're going to have this whole lack of skills. So basically, they're not modeling any skills that will help you get through relationships, to help you deal with conflict, because the only mode that you had available to you was to stay silent when they went into their rages. Because if you pointed out or fought back, and you probably fought back for a long time until you started to learn that, hey, this isn't quite right. Like if I stay silent, which is what they want, is your silence. But there's a power in silence once you understand how to wield it. But one of the problems with being the adult child of a narcissist is that they will not have any relationship skills. So you're in this toxic family system where nobody's worked through anything. So you're going to need to learn some relationship skills, some ways to speak to your mate or speak to your friends or speak to your coworker that won't be as inflammatory as what you witnessed in your narcissistic parent, because you will have seen them do all kinds of things to keep control of everybody in the room. And one of the things that they'll do is passive aggressive behavior. And so passive aggressive behavior might be something that you adopted because you don't know what to say. You don't know how to handle this situation, and so you stay quiet. But then you do something aggressive. You do some sort of action that sends the message to them that you're upset with them. Instead of just saying, you know what, I'm kind of upset with you right now, and here's why. And this kind of piggybacks on number one, that assuming thing. Here's why, and I don't want to assume that I know what's going on with you. So can you tell me what was happening with you in that moment? And learning to trust that the information that they're giving to you is the truth. Because with your narcissistic parent, I can bet it wasn't the truth. If you did try to challenge them on anything or try to have a conversation with them about the way they treated you, they're going to make it all about you and how you made it a problem and how you messed up. So they're turning the tables constantly on you. And this is such a mind game, and this can really kill your relationships going forward. And this is one of the things that makes adult children of narcissists want to isolate and not reach out to people and not be in relationship with people. There's all these assumptions going on in your mind, perhaps, that you assume that people don't like you, they don't trust you, they don't, all these ways that you were programmed to think like this. So getting some relationship skills is going to be really important for you. There's all kinds of books that can help you with this. There's all kinds of workshops and online courses and things that can help you with gaining some relationship skills so that you can work through things with people in your life versus just letting them go, getting into this passive aggressive loop. And also look at yourself, really seriously look at yourself and say, okay, I do that in this relationship, and this is something I can stop. And you can even go to your mate or your friend and say, hey, look, I do this in relationship, and I'm just realizing that I'm doing this. Can you help me with undoing it? And that opens up a line of communication with somebody that you care about to begin building these relationship skills. And you'll find that as you do this, as you have these conversations, that people are really open to them, that they really want to work things out with you and they want to make things better in your relationship and in your life together. And so that's really freeing when you understand that most people, healthy people, will want to work through these things with you. The third relationship killer that narcissistic parents set you up for is an inability to trust yourself and to trust others. Now, narcissistic parents are gaslighting. They're lying. They're turning the tables on you. They're putting you in double binds, damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of scenarios. And so that ability to trust yourself is something that they're really cutting you off from. The ability to hear that internal inner voice, letting you know which way to go in relationship, what to say in relationship, how to help yourself through your relationships. Is something that they are very masterful at cutting you off from. Because if you have your own inner voice, your own inner resources available to you and out there helping you, then they won't be able to keep control of you. And that's how they are. They want to stay in control of you. And so creating this overall sense of distrust in yourself and distrust in others. They're often very paranoid as parents, and they're blaming you for things that they're actually doing. That's a classic narcissistic move. And so what this does to you is it creates this difficulty in trusting other people in relationships and friendships and romantic relationships, in work relationships. So you may be always kind of, I don't know, just sort of on guard all the time. You might be this, what I call the hypervigilant self, where you're just on guard and sort of like your nervous system is like this, where it's just sort of buzzing all the time looking for what's going to go wrong in the room. And as long as you have this inability to trust yourself and that intuitive inner voice, that disconnection from that part of the self, you will continue to have difficulties in relationships. And so what I do is I help people with developing their intuition so that they can gain that self-trust and they can evolve that self-trust. And I do this in my online course and certification program for practitioners or wannabe practitioners to get certified in a whole person integration technique to help you with releasing that emotional energy, releasing yourself from these prisons of silence that your narcissistic parent puts you in, releasing yourself from that inability to trust yourself and to trust others. As you gain trust in yourself, you just automatically gain trust in others because you'll be able to feel and sense and know what's going on with the other person. And you'll be able to feel and sense and know that sense of safety that you can get from being around other people that are trustworthy, that are good-hearted people. And you'll also understand that if they do something that is not trustworthy, if they're lying to you, if they're gaslighting you, that it is on them. It's not your responsibility. You are not to blame for somebody else's behavior, but you have been programmed to believe that you are to blame for the behavior of the person who's in a primary relationship, and that's the behavior of your narcissistic parent. So self-trust is a huge piece of what can really kill your relationships as you go forward in your life. The fourth relationship killer for adult children of narcissists, ACONs, who've been conned by their narcissistic parent, is jealousy and envy. Now, narcissists are driven by jealousy and envy, and they may have been really jealous of you and envious of you. They may be jealous of, you're way more intelligent than they are, and that makes them very, very uncomfortable because then you might figure out their game and then call them on it, and they do not want that. That's not okay. That leads right to narcissistic injury, narcissistic rage, and it's just a big mess. So the jealousy and envy that they have been projecting on you and maybe onto your other parent, that may spill over into your relationships in some way. It may spill over into colleague relationships where instead of feeling happy for somebody who gets a promotion and excited for them, or who has some sort of big accomplishment, that you feel jealousy and envy. And maybe you feel that at first and you're able to work through that. That's great. That's the kind of skill that you're going to need to develop in order to get past this. Now, you may go right to jealousy and envy in your romantic relationships because perhaps you watched your narcissistic parent just be incredibly jealous of the other parent because the narcissistic parent was cheating, and then they were projecting it on the other parent. And then they made it all about your other parent who being this horrible, awful person who was cheating, but they weren't. So the smoke and mirrors, the gaslighting, the lying, all of those things can really create a big issue with jealousy and envy because narcissists are externally motivated as well. Everything's about the outer image. How do we look to everyone else? How expensive does my life look? All of the designer labels and all of those things where they're trying to project that, we're the perfect family, we're amazing, and they're trying to con other people into believing that. Meanwhile, they're conning you into believing that you're not good enough, and you're not smart enough, and you'll never measure up to anything. All of those kinds of things are programmed by narcissistic parents. And jealousy and envy, that energy of those emotions, you can feel them in that relationship really driving them. So look at your own life and see, are there arenas where I am jealous of my friends, or maybe you're jealous of colleagues, or maybe you're jealous in romantic relationships, and maybe you're jealous in romantic relationships because it's rightful to be that way, because the person you're with is really not trustworthy. And that loops back to trust, self-trust, and really listening on the inside and learning how to listen to those cues and develop that intuitive ability. So you can see how all of these things are really wrapped up together in this video on these relationship killers that narcissistic parents can really set you up for later on in life, quite unwittingly. So again, it's about looking at yourself and making changes in your own life, in your own body, mind, your holistic system, emotional, mental, physical, and energetic parts of the self. It's very important to look at your entire system to help you with all of this. And hey, just take a moment here, if you haven't already done so. If you like what I'm talking about, please hit the like button. That really helps get me out in the algorithms more. Please subscribe if you haven't already done that. Hit that notification bell for future videos. I put videos out every week, and then I have a lot of short videos that are coming out several times a week, where you can really get teasers. You get information from other videos that you can watch that are long form, that might just be, you just want more information about. So at any rate, thank you so much for doing that. Also, please comment below if there's anything that you would add to this video, something that you struggle with as an adult in your relationships that you know is directly related to being raised by a narcissistic parent, then let me know that. And I do make videos based on people's questions. So if you have a question about something that you want me to expand upon, then I can make a video about that as well. The fifth relationship killer that narcissistic parents really set you up for in your adulthood, if you have a narcissistic parent, is that they train you to walk on eggshells. So they train you to be in this hypervigilant state. They train you to jump through hoops for them, hoops of fire, and you better do it right away. You better do it yesterday. And it doesn't even really matter whether you did it right away or not, because you're going to get in trouble for not doing it right, or not measuring up in some way. So this constant hypervigilant state that the narcissistic parent trains you to be in can really have a big impact on your relationships going forward. And this can be relationships of all kinds. It can be romantic partnerships, it can be friendships, it can be work colleague situations where they can feel that your nervous system is basically like on high alert all the time. As I mentioned, I call that the hypervigilant self, and that's the part of the self that is really spinning in this same old training that the narcissistic parents set you up for, to be on guard, constantly waiting for the next thing to happen. And so this can have a serious effect on your adult relationships, because the other person that you're in a relationship with may not understand this one at all. They may say, why are you being so afraid? Why are you being so fearful? Why are you being so distrusting of me? Why are you jealous and envious? And all of these things you can trace back to the way that you were programmed by your narcissistic parent. Why are you so afraid I'm going to have an affair? Why are you so afraid I'm going to... So that fear, and that's really what hypervigilance is. It's fear. It's a watchfulness and a fear for what's going to go wrong, because you were trained to understand that something's always going to go wrong, but that doesn't have to be the case in your adult relationships. So what will help you with everything that I've been talking about today in this video is to shift your perception. And so you've been looking through the glasses of a narcissist, and these glasses are really, really thick, and they're really, really coated with smoke. The smoke and the mirrors that narcissistic parents really set you up for. So understanding all of these things that I've been talking about today, again, have been working together and working against you in ways. So one of the first things that you can do to help shift your perception is to really look at yourself honestly and say, hey, I do this too. I do it in that relationship, and I do this other thing that I've been talking about, of the 5 different points I've been talking about that are really big relationship killers as you get older. That you can shift and you can change those. And a way to change your perception, of course, is going to therapy. That'll be really helpful. But a rapid acting technique that I created called whole person integration technique will help you shift your perception in a rapid way. Why? Because we're working with the human energy system. We're working with how you've stored your energy around all of the things I've been talking about today, around hypervigilance, around jealousy, around self-trust. And what you'll do is you'll be able to learn more relationship skills that will help you in your adult life, because you'll have more energy available to you. Because again, we're working with the human energy system and helping you to release the energy, the emotional energy that's been tied up in your system for so long. And that emotional energy will drain you over time, eventually draining your biology, and can potentially make you sick. And I know all of this firsthand because it's exactly what happened to me. And that's why I do what I do and help people. I did 15 years of traditional psychotherapy as a patient before I found the work that I do today. And I got more out of one session than I did out of the 15 years of therapy. And I'm not knocking therapy. Therapy is really, really critical and really important. And I often will work with people that are doing traditional psychotherapy in conjunction with the energy release therapy using whole person integration technique that I use to help my clients with. So we get to the subconscious beliefs, how your body's holding it. So it's a somatic talk therapy that I can do with people anywhere around the world. So I'll work one-on-one with people. I also have a group coaching program and certification program in whole person integration technique called Evolving Intuition, Building Self-Trust for Life. And I help them with their intuitive development, because that's a primary, actually it's absolutely necessary to be able to use whole person integration technique, is to have access to that intuitive, and to understand there's a whole art and science behind intuition and developing your intuition. Anyway, as you've heard me say today, there are many ways that you can work with me. You can watch more of my videos as well on my YouTube channel that give you all kinds of things that you can do. But shifting your perception and cleaning up those glasses, getting a new pair of glasses that you can look through life at, will help you so much in gaining some skills to work through relationships with other people in your life. Your perception will shift just based on working with people that are healthy, that are willing to work through things with you. And you know, that first time you do it, it feels really strange, it feels really weird, but it's very, very, it's incredible. It's helpful and really necessary if you want to have healthy relationships into your adulthood. So I'm Dr. Meg Haworth, and I thank you so much for listening to this video, and I hope that this information will help you get well now.